Welcome to the Wake Up Protocol. I am your host, Nadia Haldeman, and together we're having life-changing conversations with real people about spiritual awakening and the transformations that follow. We're mapping the messy path of awakening so you can go further faster and feel a little less alone along the way. For this episode of the Wake Up Protocol, I'm sitting down with Benjamin J. Thomas. Benjamin is a singer-songwriter, a music producer, and a self-described song activator who has dedicated his life to helping people discover the melody they already carry inside. Benjamin has this incredible ability to create songs that bring real joy for life, celebrating the beauty of our existence and lifting up everyone around him. He joins me to share his fascinating spiritual evolution, moving from his roots as a Catholic kid to working as an evangelical church pastor and creative director before completely deconstructing his institutional faith to find that true creativity actually is our spirituality. He opens up about the scary growth edges of writing and singing and why he believes that to be truly human in this age of artificial intelligence, we have to lean directly into the rough and beautifully weird fringes of our own curiosity. We dive into how sound creates a physical architecture for energy to manifest, the power of default manifesting through our subconscious minds, and how a simple guitar melody with the words, "I am okay," became the exact medicine his inner child needed to hear. This is a deep, soulful conversation about moving past the stories we inherit from others so we can step into our own magnetism. Benjamin reminds us that the ultimate spiritual practice is dropping the future and the past to simply anchor ourselves in the beautiful present moment.
It was in about 2015, and at that point I had been working in the church as a pastor and creative director for a number of years, and also as a singer-songwriter. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I had at that point probably put out like 5 records or something, and I was seeing a therapist, and he encouraged me to do a lot of journaling and a lot of introspection on just asking that question, like, what is that curiosity? And I started dreaming out, like literally, like, what does a life look like that is actually me outside of these containers? Because I was very aware that the containers of the life was constrictive in some way. So I started giving myself permission to really dream as if I was living in that reality. I started dreaming about creating space for people to create. I started awakening to the fact that this creative journey that I had been on my whole life, this listening for the creative whispers inside of me and then responding to it, that was actually the core of my spirituality. It's almost like pinch me, I'm dreaming, like this is actually it. It's like I get to listen to what I want, and then I get to follow that leading, that curiosity, that thing, like that's what this whole thing is about. And the more we can practice that, the more like clear our lives start to become, the more we get to start to clear up a lot of those things that stop us are really just story that we make up or we inherit from somebody else. And they're not your story, they're not my story, it's somebody else's story. And these are all opportunities for us to get more clear and to listen and to respond to that and to follow what a treat it is.
Benjamin J. Thomas, welcome to the Wake Up Protocol.
Thank you, Nadia. Thanks so much for having me on.
It's so wonderful to have you here. You and I have talked about you being on my podcast before I even recorded the first episode. We met at a gathering, and I immediately knew that you were going to be one of my guests. Over 30 episodes, over 40 that I've already recorded. And here
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's been such a joy doing that. And yeah, I'm so much looking forward to this conversation. There's so many themes that I'm interested in that you're living these days. So you are a singer-songwriter, you're a record producer, you're a song activator, as you call yourself, and you're also the founder of Bring Forth, which is a creative music community. And just to get started with, what is a song activator?
Titles are fun because we get to just make them up in new seasons, right? And so that's a title that I started embodying more recently. I realized there's been a thread the whole time. I see song as this expression of our authenticity, our divinity. What's in here, I'm pointing to my chest if you're listening to the audio podcast. And connecting with song and being able to transmit that to other people, to me, has been sort of my life through line. It's been the medicine for me. It's been the thing that's changed my life and healed me from the inside out. It's also been my curiosity, the thing that's kind of drawn me in. And so what I also get to do is, in addition to activating these songs within me, I now get to help other people do that as well. Some of that comes through producing music, and some of that comes through some one-on-one coaching that I do with folks, and this organization called Bring Forth that we launched last year. Mm-hmm. So it's such a treat to have that as kind of the centerpiece of my journey right now.
It's so wonderful to be so deeply connected to music. And you were teaching a music course that I should be honest, I barely attended it. I signed up and I joined a couple of the classes, but I felt really, really inspired to write songs during that time. And I thought it was really wonderful how you talked about when we're singing, that it's like feeling that resonance in our body, that it does something. Because what I did at the time was I felt super inspired to write lyrics. And I'm still not feeling very confident singing. There's just still something that needs to awaken inside of me. There's some fear or something. So instead of wanting to go ahead and sing the songs, I ended up using AI to create these songs, which turned out really beautiful. And they were my lyrics. But we had this conversation about feeling the resonance of the sound inside of ourselves. And I'm curious if you can maybe go a little bit more into that, what that does to us.
Yeah, thank you, Nadia. When we're tuning in, when we're really present and we're listening to that intuitive little whisper of spirit within us, that's magic right there. And that's also a practice that we can develop. And the more we do it, the better we get at it. So I think a lot of people would say, oh, I'm not an artist, I'm not a songwriter. And I think that maybe there's just levels of this, but I believe everyone is an artist. I believe everyone has a creative capacity inside of them. And I also believe that everyone actually has the capacity to connect with song. I think all things are song, all things are vibration and moving. And so when we get quiet and we listen, you might have different ways of coming at song. Someone might want to start with ideas first. Some people are very literal. And so their ideas are the things that kind of drive, because it starts in the mind. But some of us, we get this practice of being able to drop into our bodies and really get super, 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 super present. We're just listening to these little small impulses inside of us. That is song awakening us to a little melody that's inside of us that might want to take us this way or that way. And that whole process is just so much fun, because it's just that in practicing an intuitive listening and responding to what's already moving within you. And anyone can access that. I really believe that. This is not just for the elite few that are deemed as songwriters and get this stamp. This is a practice I think that anyone can take part in.
So for somebody like me who's still feeling some fear around singing, and it's very vulnerable to start singing, putting those sounds out, especially if other people are listening. I can totally do it in the shower by myself.
Yeah.
There's a magic about the shower too, because the sound is contained and it comes back and it's a bit amplified, and it's also blurred with the shower water, so that it sounds actually pretty amazing. Versus if I'm just in a open space, it feels like it leaks a little bit. It feels a lot more vulnerable and a lot more scary. So somebody like me who feels that fear around really opening up that voice, what are some of the techniques that you teach people to start opening that up?
Well, I think you're already doing some of those, Nadia. I think the shower is a beautiful place. The shower is a place of resonance and safety. And if you can start where your body feels safe. Remember, we're just training our bodies to feel safe in every moment. And so if you can stay in that space where you're feeling connected to song, there's an easefulness. There's a myth, I think, sometimes that you have to look a certain way or act a certain way to be a real songwriter. You have to be doing certain things. None of that is true. To be a songwriter or a song catcher or a song carrier is just you're staying in connection with song. So start with what you know, and start with what makes you feel the resonance in your body and what makes you feel safe. And what gives you that spirit of playfulness and oh my God, what could be next? You want to lean into that edge and use that as your starting point. And as you kind of continue to do that, then you can start asking yourself, hey, what's one step of what's my growth edge? One beautiful thing about the creative process and the whole creative journey is, especially the second we start sharing it we come up to our growth edges, and those growth edges don't feel great. They feel kind of scary. And so my question to you would be like, well, where's that edge lie? Where is it? There's safety, and then there's the edge of something that you know you want to expand and share a little bit more or bring a little bit more. Where is that? Just getting really curious about things that kind of come up in that process for you.
Well, maybe I'll have you coach me through it to finally feel that confidence to start opening it up.
No, yeah, I love the path that you're on, Nadia, with it. I feel like you have a curiosity around it. I think you leaning into like, there's a lot of conversation about AI right now, and we could probably get into this later because I think that we're in a really interesting moment right now. But you're learning to use that as a tool to direct you to your own intuition and your humanity. And I think that's actually a beautiful way to harness that as a tool.
Yeah.
To point you into that. So,
it's actually interesting. When I took that class, we messaged back and forth a few times, and I did share with you openly that I got really inspired to write some songs and then end up using AI. And the songs are beautiful AI songs. And it's a very controversial thing. I'm actually curious what your perspective is on how AI could potentially be used in a creative way to help advance with music rather than just replacing the things that obviously there's a lot of people say that if we use too much AI, it'll make us dumber. But I also feel like AI has the ability to make us smarter if we use it the right way as a teacher, in a way to encourage us to learn and grow. So I'm curious what your personal perspective as a musician, singer-songwriter, music producer is with AI and the time we're in.
Sure. Yeah, those are deep, really, really profound questions right now. I think a lot of us are wrestling with it because I think there's a lot of fear around AI, quote unquote, replacing us, right? Mm-hmm. I guess the question that I tend to lean into is what actually are you outsourcing? What are you actually outsourcing? Mm-hmm. And being really conscious about that. Because I think that when we pay attention to what we're just handing off, and sometimes we can use it as shortcuts and we're bypassing part of that creative process, part of that uncomfortable part of the creative process where you have a blank page in front of you and there's nothing. And if you're too quick to just push a button and fill that nothing with a something, you have a loop between your mind and your heart. Mm-hmm. And that loop between the mind and the heart is part of the creative process. And so if you shortchange that, if you shortcut that, I think that the more you do that, the more danger, the more risk you are at losing touch with your essential humanity. However, if in that process we build in some architecture, some way of being, some way of working with that as a system, as an actual tool that continues to point us to the question of like, what do I want? What makes me feel good? What's my intuition telling me about this? And you're continuing to ask those questions. I think that there's a way that we can work with it that actually can elevate our creativity and help you lean into the things that you love and explore lands that you would never think you could sail to. And it's like a rocket ship that we can go explore with. It's giving us creative tools, and you can literally like do things that you couldn't do before. And now that you have that, I think about people who are vibe coding. I just kind of got into this a little bit recently, and I know this is a similar debate, but I'm not someone who's ever coded. I tried to even do when I was in college for a minute, tried to do computer science. I just couldn't pull it together because my brain's not wired like a mathematician. But I have a creative mind. I have an imagination. And so the vibe coding thing is an opportunity for people who have some imagination and creativity to then be able to move something forward out of their imagination.
Yeah.
So yeah, listening, continuing that path of like, what is your intuition telling you? What do you love? Really paying attention to what your body's saying as you work with the AI instead of just outsourcing and running away from it.
Yeah, as you're sharing that, what comes up for me is a feeling in my chest. It's like, does it feel calm? Does it feel creative? Does it feel inspiring? Or does it feel kind of stressful, like I'm getting ahead of myself and I'm outsourcing my creativity to technology? Because technology was always evolving and it was always controversial, right? There was like the photorealistic painting, and then photo cameras came in. It's like, which one is art and which one isn't? And then abstract painting got evolved because of that, because all of a sudden we didn't need to photorealistically paint anymore. Now it was a choice to do that. It wasn't a necessity anymore. And then I remember when I started studying graphic design, in my very first year, my teachers still insisted that we do everything by hand and not with the computer. And we were like, come on, guys, there's computers. Why wouldn't we use computers? Everything is done on computers. Photoshop, Illustrator, that just started at the time. So my very first year, my teachers were very resistant. And then they ended up hiring younger teachers to teach us the computer skills, which obviously everybody does now. So how does AI in terms of creativity help us? And where does it take over and take our humanity away? And yeah, even podcasts, right? So you can create a Google Doc and then click a button and Google Gemini will make a podcast out of it, which is kind of wild. And in this podcast, I'm really interested in keeping that humanity alive, that we're sharing real story, vulnerable story about our own human experience that other people can hopefully relate to.
Yeah. And I think that there's something in the human experience also that is fringe and weird and the rough edges of things and the uncomfortable places and the awkward silences and all those things that make us quirky humans that is really beautiful and essential to our humanity. And I think that algorithms tend to work toward the middle and they put things into the happy big middle place. It's easy to capture those things. It's easy to quantify those things. It's easy to market those things that are in the middle. And so for us to really be human right now in this moment is to pay attention to that and to really lean into the fringe places, lean into the weird places, lean into the creative edges of our curiosity internally even. It feels like really essential work right now.
I love that. To be human is to be weird. And how can we celebrate that and lean more into the weirdness of humanity?
Totally. Yeah, but how do we lean into the weirdness of humanity?
Yeah. You know, there was a time when I posted a lot on LinkedIn and somebody sent me a message and he said, you know, I've been noticing you're making some grammatical mistakes and I used to be an English teacher and I could help you get those right. And I said, I actually leave those in on purpose right now because I want people to know that it's not written by AI.
Totally.
And he had a hard time understanding that. And that was in the very, very beginning of, you know, AI becoming such, ChatGPT just becoming like the tool that everyone's using. I'm getting over that a little bit, but still there's something nice about that.
Yeah, you left in the rough edges and that's really beautiful and needed. And I'll also mention this just on the topic of AI, just saying this because I can see this and feel this right now culturally. We're becoming more and more aware of access and how important it is for us to make sure that we're giving access and we have the potential for this to create a lot of division between classes even and to create new classes of people. There's a lot of conversation about this. The Pope spoke about this just this past week. If you read any of the things that he wrote about, was really fascinating. And I think really spot on to what it means for us as spiritual beings to really be very intentional as we are creating this new reality, this new order. It's an important moment for us. So let's stay very conscious about this. I think these are the best conversations to be having right now.
Yeah, so important right now. You have been a spiritual person for a very, very long time, and you started as a pastor in the Christian religion and had a long evolution of your spirituality to arrive at where you're at today. How did you get into spirituality and even Christianity in the first place?
Thanks for asking that, Nadia. I think mystery was always something that was embedded inside of me from being a kid. I grew up Catholic, and I think that there was maybe even something in that tradition that really spoke to me and stayed with me as I aged and then took even other spiritual paths. That was valuing mystery, something that we can't name and can't quite access, and we're doing our very best to do that. And so I went through my different seasons and I went into the evangelical world, and that was my life. I lived inside of that sphere. All along the while, though, there was always that sense that there was a box that we as humans were trying to carve out and create for something that was actually unnameable, and that we were doing our very best to describe that. And I saw a lot of people have trauma and a lot of damage and hard things that happen inside of institutional Christianity. Fortunately, I'm not one of those. I don't have a horror story. I don't have a story that's like I was, harmed in some deep way. In fact, I have kind of the opposite. I have a beautiful story where Dios became like the home, the cocoon for my spirituality. and allowed my spirituality to keep evolving and keep expanding. And at a certain point, that container couldn't hold me anymore. And so it was in about 2015. And at that point, I had been working in the church as a pastor and creative director for a number of years. And also as a singer-songwriter. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I had at that point probably put out like 5 records or something. And I was seeing a therapist, and he was really helping me through things. And during that season, I started awakening, just a lot of the rough edges of life that I was kind of feeling and being pressed up against and feeling like, is this it? And he encouraged me to do a lot of journaling and a lot of introspection on just asking that question, like, what is that curiosity? What is inside of me that wants to dream about something else? And so during that season is when I started dreaming, and I started writing in my journal a lot. And I started dreaming out, like literally, like, what does a life look like that is actually me outside of these containers? Because I was very aware that the containers of the life was constrictive in some way. So I started giving myself permission to really dream as if I was living in that reality. I started dreaming about creating space for people to create. I started awakening to the fact that this creative journey that I had been on my whole life, this listening for the creative whispers inside of me and then responding to it, that was actually the core of my spirituality. That it wasn't named by an organization or dogma or doctrine, but that there was actually in that process of listening and responding, which was making me alive. And I had the capacity to create anything I want, including a life that I wanted. So, yeah, during that season, it was around 2014, 2015, I ended up taking some leaps. Actually, I was in the middle of making a record at that time. That was a bunch of hymns that I was rewriting because I had been at a creative stuck point in my life. And I was using these hymns that I resonated with. And I was also deconstructing my spirituality and trying to grapple with that. So I used the text to these hymns, and then I started writing my own lyric or my own melodies to them. And I produced a whole record of these songs that were the building blocks of which were this faith that I kind of had inherited, but I got to stand on top of it and claim it and make it my own. And that record actually ended up being called Bring Forth, because I realized that in the making of that record, I was awakening to that creativity is our spirituality. And so it was also during that same season that I started feeling those pings. And so in 2016, my family and I, we had been living in Illinois for most of our lives. My wife was 7th generation Naperville. That's where we lived, in Naperville, Illinois, outside of Chicago. And we felt these little creative pings, and we took the leap and we moved our family across the country to Southern California. And I launched a nonprofit recording studio and creative space for under-resourced kids.
Oh, wow.
And I did that with an organization called Triple Threat Mentoring. That leap was a very physical leap, but it was also very there was a spiritual leap to it. There was just so many layers to that, leaving that safety of that place that we had been for so long. And in that period of time, having to walk away from the things that gave me the everyday safety, all of the things that I kind of knew was familiar, and really trust that these little whispers inside of me, these dreams that were on my journal pages, that they could manifest into reality and bring good. I could trust that path would lead me down somewhere that was actually more expansive and more me than anything. And it's got a lot of complexities to the story. And it was like lots of ups and downs and twists and turns between then and then even how we ended up traveling up the West Coast. And we're living in Leavenworth, Washington now, where we've been for 5 years. But following that thread, I can point back to some of those moments to go, that was a moment. I think we have these times when we have these expansion moments. And sometimes they come because we hit a rock bottom. We hit a part in life where the edge is just too hard for us. Some people get there through loss. And you're confronted with this reality that the container that you're living inside of won't fit you anymore. And so you have a choice at that time, is to either constrict and just mimic the world around you and just try to fit in, or go inside, listen, get really quiet and listen, and then respond. And that's the path that we chose.
Before we continue, I want to take a moment to say thank you for being here and for listening. Your support for this podcast means more than you can imagine. If this conversation is landing for you, I'd love to invite you to go a little deeper with us. You can sign up for the Wake Up Protocol newsletter at thewakeuprotocol.com. That's where we share tools, bonus insights, and discounts on upcoming offerings to help you integrate these conversations into your own life. And if someone comes to mind while you're listening, someone who needs to hear this message right now, please share this episode with them, or even 3 people who feel like they're standing at the edge of something big. This podcast grows through word of mouth, and your sharing truly helps this work reach the people it's meant for. Okay, let's return to the conversation. What a beautiful story of starting with Christianity and having a positive experience with the church and spirituality in that way, and then realizing that there's even more to your personal way of experiencing spirituality, and then doing the physical move, realizing that the container was also the area where you lived at in this country was no longer serving you and needing to go to a different place to experience something else. So when you started that music production nonprofit for under-resourced children, what exactly was the work that you did there, and how did that serve the community?
Yeah. Oh, man, it was such a beautiful community. We got to work with students in low-income neighborhoods in Southern California. We had a studio space that we opened in Santa Ana, and kids would walk there and find that as their home. We had a recording studio, and we would teach kids how to make music. Mm-hmm. And that work we got to do for a couple of years while we still had that funding. Meanwhile, as I was doing that, I was also realizing, you take a leap and then you realize, oh, well, this is beautiful, and it's a more direct version to articulate me, but hold on, there's something else that I don't want to leave behind. And for me, a lot of that something else had to do with ceremony, and it had to do with the sacredness of song within spaces where we are really connecting with song through listening to song and responding and communal singing. And a lot of the things that I had in the church. And when I walked away from the church, I felt like, well, okay, I'm done with the institution. But then when I was like just doing the work with these kids and also making my music and all that, I felt like, oh, wait, hold on, there's something else. And so a few years into that journey, we were there, and I was making a record. I was finishing up a record called WakeUp, which ended up releasing in 2019. And it kind of documents my own spiritual deconstruction. And as we started kind of finishing the record, and I had a little trio that we were playing together, a cello player, another vocalist, and singing, I was going to go do the thing where you go book shows places, which is what you do when you're a singer-songwriter. You look for like, okay, what's the next biggest venue? How many seats can I fill? Where can I get to play? Who can I open for? All that stuff. And something about that whole up into the right thing that was like, build something bigger, 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 felt inauthentic to the songs and the journey that the songs had me on. Mm-hmm. And I was longing to actually create spaces that were kind of like the church, where you have these like sacred moments of in-between space where you're listening and you're responding and there's communal singing, and there's something more sacred than just like, I'm going to go consume a concert. So we started playing these shows. I kind of invented a format. I called them guided concerts. And they were a journey that we would take people on. And it was about a 60, 90-minute journey, usually about 2 hours in total, and started doing them in living rooms and in small venues, yoga studios and such. And the intention was just to be able to be fully present, because even as a music lover, my favorite moments are when you walk into a room and someone's sharing their art, sharing their heart through song, and you realize this space is never going to happen again. Like, this particular group of people is gathered in this space, and it's just so rare because it's happening right now and here, and you're very present. And so that was the goal, to create spaces like that. So to answer your question, I'm doing the long version of that. Following the pathway to California and launching that space then took me to another edge. Honestly, it took me to a spot where, like, this isn't actually exactly it. I need to invent a new container. This container isn't big enough for me anymore either. And the music industry container, it doesn't vibe with me. This is like an incongruence here. So I'm going to dream up a world of my own. I'm going to make something new. We're going to try something else. I'm going to create these other spaces. And so we did that. And there's more chapters in that story, but that ended up becoming, honestly, the underpinnings of what moved me to Washington State. And now, especially even after a few years now being here and discovering this thriving community in the Pacific Northwest that is doing things like song circles and doing things like ceremony and such. I didn't know any of that world. Like, that was totally new to me. I got up here, I'm like, wait a minute, all the things that I've been like kind of inventing, I'm like, other people are doing some similar stuff. Look at this. So, yeah, that's another wild lake of the journey, and ultimately then gave rise to Bring Forth, which is the organization that we launched last year.
What a beautiful journey that you're describing. And there's such an incredible community here in the Pacific Northwest of people all on that same journey, wanting to bring sacredness, spirituality in a very embodied kind of way together. And I would actually like to get a little bit more into the word spirituality, because there's so many interpretations of what that means. To me, spirituality is literally just being human. It's being connected, being present, being connected to everything within and without ourselves, and connected to all the people around us in a way that feels good, in the frequency of love. To me, that is what spirituality is all about. And it took me years and years and years to finally come to peace with the fact that that's what it is, and that I can really stand behind that. But to come back to what you were just sharing, what came up for me when you talked about creating environments where you helped youth create music, what a beautiful way to spend time for especially under-resourced children, that they can create and express themselves and find meaning in that. And then realizing that the circle, the community part, the ceremony part was missing, and realizing that you needed to incorporate that, which is really, I interviewed Ben Browner on this podcast a few weeks ago. And
I know Ben.
Yeah, he's beautiful what he's creating. Again, he is also one of the people in his community who really wants to bring as many people as possible into these containers so that they can experience it. Because it's ancient technology. We've always been sitting around the fire and singing and dancing and connecting with each other in that way. And especially in a time of AI and all the artificial stuff that's happening in this world, coming back to our humanity and to the simplicity of life, because everything is so much simpler than we think it is. And once we experience the simplicity, something within ourselves awakens. You're laughing, right?
Yeah,
Me too.
totally.
Every time I realize it's the cosmic joke. It's so simple, and we try to make it so complicated.
Totally.
Getting together with a bunch of people in nature and creating music together and singing and feeling that vibration inside of our bodies and within the group, there is such magic that comes out, and it's so healing.
Yeah, totally. It is so ridiculously simple. And it's almost like, pinch me, I'm dreaming. Like, this is actually it. It's like I get to listen to what I want, and then I get to follow that leading, that curiosity, that thing. Like, that's what this whole thing is about. And the more we can practice that, the more like clear our lives start to become, the more we get to start to clear up. A lot of those things that stop us are really just story that we make up or we inherit from somebody else. And they're not your story. They're not my story. It's somebody else's story. And these are all opportunities for us to get more clear and to listen and to respond to that and to follow what a treat it is. So, wow.
Yeah.
Life.
Yeah. So to me, that is spiritual awakening. Just the simplicity of becoming human again. Everybody describes it differently. How would you describe what spiritual awakening is to you?
Presence. Yeah. I think that there's a lie that says that, God, or whatever we want to call divinity, exists somewhere else other than what is present. And I think Eckhart Tolle got that right profoundly. And I think there are other spiritual teachers who got that really right. When we are able to get into the pattern of releasing past and releasing the future and drop into the present, that's ultimately just our spirituality. And that spirituality practice to me is getting into more presence.
Yeah, presence. I've shared it on this podcast before, but I'm going to tell the story again for those who haven't heard it. I read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle way back when, probably in the 90s. And in 2004, I think, I went to Burning Man for the first time. And on the very last night during the temple burn, somebody gave me some magic mushroom tea. And I was just sitting there as the temple was burning. The temple at Burning Man is very special. People throughout the week, they write all kinds of notes, things they want to release, things they feel shame about, people they love and lost. It's like walking through the temple is a very, very profound experience. Most people, as they walk through it, are just bawling because all of the pain and the hope and fear and all of humanity is just there and makes you really, really present in that. But then when the temple burns, all these little fire tornadoes starts to dance around and everybody's very, very quiet. And it felt very tribal, and people would just sit there and hold each other in the elements, on the earth, and just see all this cathartic experience of everything just burning and releasing and going back into wherever it came from. And in that moment, I dropped into the moment of the eternal now. And I was like, wow, that's what Eckhart Tolle was talking about. I could always understand it intellectually, but I hadn't felt it. And I'm an experiential learner. That's the only way I can actually learn something is by doing it. And so all of a sudden I was in that. And I was like, how can we teach other people to get to that moment of experiencing that now? And yeah, one way of doing that is sitting around the fire and singing music, because the most important part of that was that I was in community. I was held within community. We were all there together for the same reason. We were all quiet. We were holding space for each other. There was a sense of groundedness. We were exposed to all the elements with the fire dancing around, which was intense. So that was just a really profound moment. There was no singing at that moment, but I assume that, in ancient cultures, people had very similar traditions, rituals like that. And there was probably singing involved and dancing as well.
Yeah. And they held on to those, and they knew that that was their medicine to bring them into presence. And I think that there are many of those medicines available to us. And for me, I happen to have discovered song as that medicine long ago. And before I even had the language to be able to wrap around it, to talk about it this way. And there's nothing new. Again, it's just like, oh yeah, of course, this is how it is. Yeah, it's really beautiful when you can sit in those spaces. And those are also the spaces that we're doing our best right now to create. And they're kind of rare. I think our culture doesn't have a lot of those spaces like that. And I would like to see more of those happen. That's part of our efforts here with Bring Forth, and part of the efforts with my music right now is to create more of those little sacred containers for people that do inhabit presence more than anything. That's just the pure goal of it. It's not perfection, it's presence. And the same thing goes with the songwriting process. This is just teaching people how to wake up to the song within them, and to be really present to it, to be still and to listen to it.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. A couple of things come up for me as we're talking about this. One is happened during a plant medicine experience for me with psilocybin, where I started seeing all these geometric shapes and patterns, and people started singing and playing music. And what came up for me was sound brings energy into form. So when I say that to you, does that resonate with you? What comes up for you? Because it felt so profound that it felt, everything felt a little stuck. And then the moment the sound came, something happened. And all of a sudden, things started to manifest and become something out of nothing.
Yeah, totally. It does. It resonates. My understanding of it, and the way when you say that, what I feel here is that sound gives structure. This is the perfect masculine and feminine marrying themselves together. I think a lot of times when we think about masculine and feminine, not gender, but simply the energies of masculine and feminine, there's a lot of feminine energy and creative spirit and creative potential that is inside of us. And when we start working with that and activating that, it needs a way to manifest, to come into reality. And I think sound in particular, even structure with rhythm and beat and music, those things provide a scaffolding for that feminine, creative spirit energy to pour itself into. And so when those are fused together and they're in a dance together really well, that's when the most potent music comes through. Dance has been such a beautiful medicine for me the past few years. Going to ecstatic dance is just such a healing, beautiful thing, because it forces me back into the presence. But there's this structure, this container, this beat, whether it's, if it's 4/4 beat, you're finding your body within it and you're dancing with it. There's a structure that you're entering into. So when you say that sound can be like this vehicle, this conduit for energy, that's what I feel in me.
Yeah. makes total sense to me that as you're describing the architecture of it, sound actually creates that architecture, that container that we can then manifest. So you've manifested a lot of things in your life as you've gone through this journey, and as you're more and more stepping into this role and this life as a musician and community curator and producer of music and teacher. How do you think of manifestation, and how do you manifest things? A lot of people are talking about manifestation these days, are manifesting their own realities. There's different thoughts on how that works. I have my own thoughts and my own entire protocol that I believe in strongly, and how I manifest a lot of the things in my life. I'm curious, how do you manifest? What are your steps, your practices, your intentions? How does that work?
Totally. Well, I'll point back to about 10 years ago when I was pointed to my dreams and to my journals, because I think that there's something in the dream and in the subconscious that holds our authenticity, our unique DNA that we are here to do, the work that we're here to do, the life that we're here to create. All those things kind of reside within us. And so those types of practices, it kind of loosened up the mind. Our mind likes to try to wrestle things into making sense. And so for me to get in touch with what I want, what my soul actually wanted to manifest, was me giving myself permission to dream, me giving myself permission to really be present to myself, me letting parts of me speak that needed to speak. Ultimately today, a lot of when I think about manifestation, I'm a huge fan of, I don't know if you know Lacey Phillips and the To Be Magnetic people. Do you know their work at all?
No, I don't.
Okay, go look them up. They're doing some really beautiful work around manifestation right now. But Lacey's work, I've been reading a lot of her stuff and listening to her, what she talks about for a while now. And she's really onto this. And one of the things that she talks about is that manifestation really is us getting into alignment with our authenticity. And when we're in alignment with our authenticity and we're manifesting from our subconscious, we don't manifest from our conscious mind. We manifest from our subconscious. And so a lot of what she teaches and what I really have been kind of following along on that pathway a little bit and learning about more is getting clear about connecting with my subconscious, getting into more of my full self-worth of who I actually am, not who the world wants me to be or who I think the world wants me to be. And doing that work brings up a lot of stuff because it brings up all these tests and triggers and things, because you start to talk about what you want and try to go after that, and then you hit these blocks, you hit these things, these moments in life where you go, I got to go do the work, and it sends you back inward. And then if you're doing the work, this is the work. This is what we call it. It's like the capital W work that we're here to do. It's hopefully we're peeling these onion layers back one more at a time, getting closer and closer to our magnetism, to our authenticity. And that to me is such a foundational part of our life journey, what we get to do here together.
I love that you mentioned authenticity. What a perfect way to manifest something that is actually aligned with who we truly are. Right. Just manifesting something that's wearing a mask, it's still possible, but are we really going to love it? Versus if it's in alignment with our authenticity, of course it's going to be the best possible version no matter what happens, because it's who we are and what makes us rejoice in life. So I love that. And
and it might be okay. We might want to, something in you, you think you want something and then you go get it, right? You want to manifest a job or a career or a spouse or something like that. And oftentimes those are because of programming, because of what the world around us has shown us is the path that we're supposed to follow. But then when we start pointing ourselves inward and asking that question, who am I? What is my authenticity? What does my true self actually want? We can start to deconstruct a lot of those fabricated things, those mirages that we think we're trying to manifest, that we're trying to chase after. And what a trip.
Yeah. And as some of the manifestation teachers say, we're always manifesting. We're just default manifesting. So if we align our frequency with the highest frequency we can possibly access and are having a clear intention of something that's in alignment with our authentic truth, then we're still, in a sense, default manifesting, but we're manifesting things that are actually serving us rather than working against us.
Right.
And yeah, people often say, if you look at your life right now, that's all the thoughts that led up to this very moment. And you always get to change it. It's like, how do you envision your future to be? And what are the thoughts and actions and intentions you can have so you can create something that feels in alignment? So yeah, really, who am I? What is my actual truth? And how do I envision that, and then just step into it step by step? And it doesn't have to happen overnight, but it's probably good if it doesn't happen overnight. Otherwise, it would be a little disruptive.
No, and it's like the fact that it doesn't happen overnight is actually part of the journey. This is what we're doing here. This is what we get to do, and that's the ride.
Absolutely. So you've shared one spiritual awakening experience where you literally moved from Illinois to California and changed your perspective on spirituality and became much more an authentic version of yourself. Have there been other moments in your life where you felt like you had an awakening of sorts?
My response is just to laugh because I go, oh yeah, like this morning or like last week or like the other day, because they happen so frequently, you know. I would say that some pivotal things for me, as someone who has been so blessed to be able to do the things that I love for a living and be able to feed my family and just kind of figure that out. One of the like more recent ones has been, well, how do you make that work? And kind of awakening to my call in life. Like, what am I here for? Like, what's all this about? And this has been like, you know, some people talk about awakening. I've had some beautiful experiences in sacred spaces and in community that have been like these big mountaintop moments of awakening. But a lot of the moments I look back at, and especially in my journaling practice, I can look back and see, because I keep a journal and I write. I've been writing every day for 15, 20 years or something like that. And I can look back and I see seasons as being this, oh man, that season taught me so much. And so I would say a more recent one, even just the past couple of years, has been kind of coming to that barrier of like, well, the things that I used to do in life to be able to like make money stopped working because the system didn't work anymore around them. And some of that was because I was like in the church and things like that, and I was able to do that. Or even around music, we used to make money selling records, and that's not a thing. I don't make really much of anything from recorded music anymore. And so those have been some challenges, to be honest, that have put me face to face with my own, who am I? What do I want? What am I here to bring? And I would call that a moment of awakening. It's a reckoning. It's like a seeing of myself, with peeling the onion layer back one more closer. And so the past several years, I started being able to articulate that a little bit better and say, I'm here to make music and experiences that remind you why you're on this planet. I'm here to make music and experiences that will remind you why you're on this planet. And now I can embody that work in my whole heart, however that comes up. Some of that is through my music as a singer-songwriter. I'm about to put out my 8th record. I love doing that. I write these little mantra songs. When I was in California, I was struggling with trying to figure out life, and I just started writing some songs that were for me, that were just for me to hear. I was so stuck like creatively. And so I was like, I don't know what kind of song to write. I was in my head a lot. So I was like, what do I need to hear right now? What does like the little boy inside me need to hear? And it was the words, I am okay. And so I just wrote this like, I am okay on a guitar. And I filmed myself and I just repeated it. And then I got this little intuition to just share it with a few friends. So I posted on a YouTube channel nobody followed, and I texted it to a few people. And then I woke up a week later and I did the same thing again. And then I did it again and again. And soon I had like 20, 30, 40, 50 of these things. And I started calling them mantra songs. And I'm like, they were like songs of medicine for me. That was another waking up moment, but that was me waking up to the medicine that I had already within me. It was like right in front of me, and exactly what I needed. I needed that sort of as a project to do, like this listening and these songs. Following that thread all the way back here, I go, these are the different containers, the different ways that my essence gets to show up, whether it's that or my song coaching or leading Bring Forth or the records I'm making, all the different manifestations of the same reality. And for me right now, the best I can say is I'm here to create music and experiences that remind you why you're on this planet.
I love that. I want to be reminded why I'm here. Sometimes
Yeah.
it feels hard, and most of the time it feels really, really incredible. I would love to give you a chance to share with our audience what you're up to. I know you have a bunch of things coming out, and we'll make sure to put all the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
How can people find you?
Thanks, Nadia. I'll talk about first. I have a record coming out this summer. It's called Behind Your Eyes, The Stars Are Born. It's my record number 8. It's a singer-songwriter record. It's also probably the most like pop leaning, like bright sounding thing that I've made. Like for the longest time, I made a lot of like dark indie folk music that feels like you should be playing it in a coffee shop, which is beautiful. And I love all that music. This one feels a little bit more buoyant in a certain way. My inner child got to come out and play on this record a lot. It was me doing a lot of work around inner child stuff and a lot of work around creativity and this inner seed of divine creativity that's inside of us, especially as we're kids, and then gets sort of squashed down with time. And we spend so much of our lives then trying to just reconnect with that through different types of practices. And so this ability to manifest, to create, this is like the power that we have through our imagination. And so those songs have collected over the past, I would say, 5 years. I've written lots and lots of songs, but these are the 12 that kind of collected themselves. And so I've been working bit by bit on this thing for a while now. We are doing a big release show for that record in June, on June 20th in Leavenworth, Washington at the Snowy Owl Theater. And I've got crew of people who are going to be singing these songs and sharing them. The record's going to be out right around then, maybe just a little after then. Everything always takes a little longer than you think. So I think I'll probably put the record out like just a few weeks later. But I've been releasing some songs, so you can find my songs, my music at Benjamin J. Thomas. You spell out J-A-Y. So if you search me on Spotify or Apple, it's Benjamin J-A-Y Thomas. Also benjaminjthomas.com. And I have an Instagram that I think you can probably find following that stuff too. So that's where to find my music that I'm putting out. And then the second thing that I'll just mention is about Bring Forth and about your song and about you. I'm talking to you, Nadia, and I'm talking to any listener here. I think that this work of activating the song within you is just the medicine that we are bringing to the world. So Bring Forth, we are a creative community built on this really simple idea that every person is carrying a song. Just not all of us know that it's there. Not all of us have been trained to listen to it. Our job is to help them hear it, help them bring it through, and then bring it to life. And so we have a collective, a community of people that, some of these are people that I've been helping do that with, and we've been recording songs and we're releasing music all the time. It's kind of a record label. We call it a music collective. And so you can find that all at bringforth.org. And we've got some amazing songs coming through that community. Like, I'm just so grateful to be part of this. Like, there's just so much. Targol's new stuff is just so beautiful. Shine Song Collective, Nora B. Heath, Hernan Salastano, who I think we met at Hernan's house. We just have some amazing song carriers in this community. So I'm so grateful for them. They're just my closest, dearest friends. And it's so beautiful to make music with your friends. We're sharing those songs, and a lot of them we're creating these guided concerts, these little containers, and we're looking for places to play them. So if you all have spots that you would like to invite us into, we'd love to create a guided concert for you. It's a little ceremony of song. And then if you're curious about your own songs within you, I do one-on-one song coaching. I do it via Zoom, and I do it in person. And we are also going to do another cohort of the Song Within, which is the course that you took, Nadia. We're going to do that probably toward the end of the summer. We're going to launch that. So the steps to do all that, just go to bringforth.org and sign up on our email list and follow us on Instagram. Those are the places. And then you can learn about all those things. And if anyone has questions also just on that, there's a little curiosity, a little ping inside you about following that thread of song. If something I said there, something we talked about today kind of got stirred up in you, there's a little piece of curiosity that goes like, what does my song sound like? How could I work with song in this way? I'd love to just jump on a call and we can chat about it. So you can find all those links at Bring Forth.
Beautiful offerings to really help people bring that creativity through, that voice into the world. And I can attest those singers and songwriters in your collective are just next level. It's unbelievably beautiful. Mm-hmm. Before we end, I have one final question for you. If you could go back in time and give a message to a younger version of you, what would you tell him?
I would tell him that the dream is true. I would tell him that songs really can heal. I would tell him to keep following the thread, that just pulling on the thread of curiosity is going to lead to way more life and way more joy and way more beauty than anything you'll ever receive from anyone else. Leaning into your own curiosity and wonder. I would tell him, don't worry about what the other kids say. You're going to have like an amazing life, and you're going to have this amazing family, and you're going to have these beautiful kids and this beautiful wife and just this deep, rich network of humans and that are around you all the time. And I would say, it's going to be okay. Like, you're going to be seen because the people that actually matter to you, where it actually matters, they see you. And so it's okay. If you're not seen by somebody else, you're not for them. It's okay. I would tell him that he is valuable, that there's nothing anyone can say that can take that away, and to stay connected to that and get outside as much as you possibly can and stay close to the earth. Keep exploring.
What a beautiful message. And so it is. Thank you so much, Benjamin, for everything you shared. It was such a pleasure having you on this podcast.
Nadia, thank you for creating this little space for us. I think that the work that you're doing is really powerful. These stories of people waking up, these are pivotal moments. And I'm so grateful for you and you elevating all of our stories together.
Thank you.
Be well, friend.
Thank you so much for tuning into the Wake Up Protocol. If you like what you heard, share this episode with 3 people who need to hear this message. And if you want to go deeper with this work, head to thewakeupprotocol.com and join our email list. That's where this podcast turns into practice. You'll receive tools to help you integrate what you're hearing, bonus resources, and behind-the-scenes insights we only share with our community, along with early access and special invites. If this podcast helps you feel less alone and more like yourself, the newsletter is where we continue the conversation. And if this is the last thing you hear from us, all we'd like to say is keep going, trust yourself, follow your heart. Until next time, have a safe and happy journey.